Hi, I'm Jim Ward of the Middle Country Public Library, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode in our History Bites series. Today we will discuss the presidential election of 1860, which was one of the most pivotal presidential elections in American history. The Republican Party held its second national convention on May 16, 1860, in Chicago, Illinois. It adopted a moderate stance on slavery and was against its expansion into the territories, although some delegates wanted the institution abolished altogether. Entering the convention, Senator William H. Seward of New York was considered the favorite for the nomination, and on the first ballot he led Abraham Lincoln as well as a host of other candidates. On a second ballot, the gap between Seward and Lincoln narrowed, and Lincoln was subsequently nominated on the third ballot. Senator Hannibal Hamlin of Maine was nominated as Lincoln's running mate. The Democratic Party was in shambles in 1860 and were divided on the issue of slavery. Southern Democrats thought slavery should be expanded, but Northern Democrats opposed the idea. States' rights were also hotly debated. Southern Democrats felt states had the right to govern themselves, while Northern Democrats supported the Union and a national government. At the convention in April, Stephen Douglas was the frontrunner, but Southern Democrats refused to support him because he wouldn't adopt a pro-slavery platform. Many walked out in protest, leaving the remaining delegates without the majority needed to nominate Douglas. The convention ended without a nominee. The Democrats met again 2 months later in Baltimore. Once again, many Southern delegates left in disgust, but enough remained to nominate Douglas as their presidential nominee, and his running mate, former Georgia Governor Herschel Johnson. Southern Democrats nominated John Breckinridge, a supporter of slavery and states' rights, to represent them in the election. Oregon Senator Joseph Lane was his running mate. Trying to transcend the sectional divide was the Constitutional Union Party, which was formed in 1859 by former Whigs and members of the Know Nothing Party. The Constitutional Unionists named former Senators John Bell of Tennessee and Edward Everett of Massachusetts as their presidential and vice presidential nominees, respectively. The Constitutional Union Party claimed to be the party of law. They took no official position on slavery or states' rights, but promised to defend the Constitution and the Union. Still, Bell wanted to offer a compromise on the topic of slavery by extending the Missouri Compromise line across the United States and make slavery legal in new states to the south of the line and illegal in new states north of the line. They hoped to sway voters who were upset with the divisiveness of the Democratic Party. After his nomination, Lincoln put aside his law practice and ran a stay-at-home campaign, in which he made no stump speeches, though he did give full time to the direction of his campaign. With Republicans united and with division within the Democratic Party and surrounding Bell's candidacy, the primary fear that Republicans had was that some disunity might appear and hamper their chances. Breckinridge also did little campaigning, giving only one speech. Douglas, however, was an active campaigner in both the North and the South, where he gave a passionate defense of the Union and strenuously opposed secession. Still, much of the campaigning that did follow consisted of parades and rallies that boosted interest in the election. On Election Day, Lincoln captured slightly less than 40% of the vote, but he won a majority in the Electoral College with 180 electoral votes by sweeping the North, with the exception of New Jersey, which he split with Douglas, and also winning the Pacific Coast states of California and Oregon. Douglas won nearly 30% of the vote, but won only Missouri's 12 electoral votes. Breckinridge, with 18% of the national vote, garnered 72 electoral votes, winning most of the states in the South, as well as Delaware and Maryland. Bell, who won 12.6% of the vote, secured 39 electoral votes by winning Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia. The results in the South are instructive in understanding the deep sectional divide. Lincoln did not win any votes in any state that would form the Confederacy, with the exception of Virginia, where he garnered only 1% of the total vote. The election of 1860 firmly established the Democratic and Republican parties as the majority parties in the United States. It also confirmed deep-seated views on slavery and states' rights between the North and the South. Before Lincoln's inauguration, 7 Southern states had seceded from the Union. Weeks after his swearing in, the Confederate Army fired on Fort Sumter and started the Civil War, which would rage for 4 years, ending in 1865 with the surrender of Robert E. Lee's Army of Northern Virginia to Union General Ulysses S. Grant. After 1860, the Democratic and Republican parties became the major parties in a largely two-party system. In federal elections from the 1870s to the 1890s, the parties were in rough balance, except in the South, which became solidly Democratic. The two parties controlled Congress for almost equal periods, though the Democrats held the presidency only during the 2 terms of Grover Cleveland, 1885 to 89 and 1893 to 97. Thank you for joining us for today's episode. If you enjoyed it, click like, and if you watched on YouTube, hit subscribe. Thanks so much, and we'll see you all next time.